Welcome, everyone, to this panel discussion on the effects of the health crisis on our European and global economy. This is the third and last part in a series of 3 events which explored various aspects of the crisis as it relates to entrepreneurs and small and medium companies, SMEs. Europe's 25 million SMEs are the backbone of our economy, employing around 100 million people and counting for more than half of Europe's GDP. Today, however, we want to move the discussion beyond profit, and we want to look at the value small entrepreneurs, family business, and socially responsible organizations can create in their communities. In disadvantaged areas, in minority or vulnerable communities, the SMEs play a pivotal role. They can be a bridge for people towards a better life. Local businesses have been proven to contribute to the well-being of a community by creating job opportunities, keeping drugs out, keeping bad influence out, being a point of help or rescue for persons in crisis, and overall contributing to the cohesion of the community. I am joined today by 3 representatives of these various dimensions that we are talking about. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Mr. Vincenzo Bassi, President of the Federation of Catholic Family Associations in Europe, or FAFCE for short. It's an umbrella organization of family associations from all over Europe. The family is the cornerstone unit for a thriving society, but lately that seems to have been forgotten in public speech and in policy. So we are very grateful for FAFCE and their work of promoting family values at European level. Their most recent resolution calls for the EU member states to include family and demographic policies in their coronavirus recovery plans. So welcome, Mr. Bassi.
Thank you very much indeed for the invitation.
Our next speaker, Mr. Lars Riise, is president and owner of Langesund Bad, a beautiful historic family-owned hotel in southern Norway. He's also a former member of the Norwegian Parliament. Oftentimes, he serves by using his hotel and his business to help and to bless others, something we look forward to hearing him speak about more. Well, welcome, Mr. Riise.
Thank you very much. Great to be here with you, and I look forward to it. And by the way, how many participants do we have in this conference?
It's us. We are here and we are hosting it, and then we have people online watching.
Yeah, and you don't know how many are online?
Not right now, but I can tell you in a bit.
We will see. Okay.
I am also pleased to welcome our third speaker, Ms. Laila Onu, the director of Pentru Voi, Fundația Pentru Voi, it means for you, foundation in Romania. It is a nonprofit which, in partnership with local authorities, is serving special abilities communities. The foundation is also fighting and promoting self-sufficient, autonomous, dignified lives for people with different abilities. They provide a range of social and educational services and also housing facilities. They're meant to support these vulnerable communities. I look forward to hearing more about your work, Ms. Onu.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Before we jump into our discussion today, please allow me to remind all of you watching online, please post your questions in the comment section below this video or to the right of this video, depending on where you're watching us. And then at the end, we're going to have a few minutes where our distinguished speakers here can answer your questions. Like I said, this is the third installment of a series of panel discussions we've been hosting where we discuss the economic crisis caused by the pandemic and the recovery solutions out there. The recovery plan, it's the largest stimulus package in the history of the EU. It's meant to help the hardest hit EU member states and to promote innovation, research, a transition to sustainability and digitization. But very little talk, if any, has been on the social aspect of the recovery. And we are concerned that member states might neglect it as well in drafting their proposals for accessing loans and grants from the European Union, which is why we wanted to have this angle approached here today and to shed a light on the communities and vulnerable people who are often skipped or passed over in the mainstream, but who have had it especially and equally tough in these times of crisis. So let's jump in. Mr. Bassi, let me start with you. What is the role and the impact that family businesses can have in community and in society?
So the family business are stronger than other business. The reason is very simple. When the bonds are stronger, the chances of economic success are much, much bigger. And I want also to highlight, to stress the fact that the marriage itself is the first entrepreneurial activity for a woman and a man, and the family is therefore a proto-enterprise. And I'm saying that because if you look at a normal family, the family works when there is organization, professionality, and economical management in order to provide services and goods for its members. So it's very clear that every enterprise should have the family as an example. And the same word economy comes from the ancient Greek, and it means the management of the family, because nomos means the management, and the oikia means the home, and then family. So we think that we have to speak about the family enterprises as a resource for our community, because it's easier for them to look at the real needs of the people, because the needs of the people are the needs of the enterprise. That's why I think that they can be successful. In other words, the family enterprises are an opportunity for a community because of the bonds which are within the enterprise thanks to the family, and they are a resource also outside because they can interpret better the needs of the community in order to satisfy, of course, and departing from these needs, they can also provide better and more useful goods and services.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Mr. Risa, I'm going to go to you. And like I said earlier, when I introduced you, we would love to hear more about your business, about the people you serve. And then maybe what is your personal motivation? What is your inspiration behind setting up the business and having it? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adriana. It was inspiring to listen to Vincenzo about the family businesses in Italy. And I think family business is a special concept. And I have seen that here, that this is absolutely a family business, because the hotel here is owned by my brother and I, plus my mother, plus my mother-in-law. And we have an engagement here for the last 15 years, but it started actually more than 100 years ago with my grandfather, who would gather young people in this hotel for the purpose of teachings from the Bible, and it was church group, youth groups gathering here every year. So when World War II was over and the Germans left the hotel because they used this as their headquarters during World War II, then a businessman here in Langesund called my grandfather and said that this property is now for sale. So he bought it for the church, and so I grew up here. My parents were running the place. So for me, the motivation to come here was, of course, very emotional, to come back to my childhood paradise and try to get this to run in a sustainable way. But my main motivation in life is, of course, how can we build the kingdom of God? How can we promote the name of Jesus, the most famous name on the planet? And the best way is to try to live out the principles of Jesus, his main precepts and teachings. So how we can apply that in our lives, and that is absolutely our main purpose. As I said, I left the parliament in 2005, and then this place was for sale. And I had been very slow in getting married. So finally, I got married when I was almost 50. And this was a perfect place for children to grow up. So, so we started to work here as a family. But then after a few years, I found now we have a very solid economy. And we decided to employ professionals here. So I had 4 dark suits walking around here, being the management group. That was very expensive. And it turned out after 2.5 years that this group had reduced or increased the debt here by 12-13 million Norwegian kroner just in 2.5 years. That is, 1.3 million euros. And it was a very serious situation. So the family had to take over again. So since then, we have understood that actually when a family is responsible for a business, we take much better care of everything in a way than people who are just employed and don't care so much about spending or how the development will go. Mm-hmm. So it's something about owning something and taking good care of it. So this has been, this is the, in a way, story about the place here, our engagement. And now in the Corona time, we will probably get more back to that, Adriana. So I leave it at that for now.
Thank you for telling us about it. And I will post the links to everything in our description below, but I'm encouraging people to go on your website and look at the services and the wonderful views that are there. It's truly beautiful. Miss Onu, let me go to you and have you tell us a bit more about your organization. What are the companies involved, the actors involved in that, and the people that you serve?
Sorry. Ruvo Foundation was started 26 years ago, so it's a long running organization by families who have children with intellectual disability or developmental disability. That means autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, mental retardation. It was an initiative of parents who were worried about what will happen with their child when they will not be any longer there to support him. We work with adults with developmental disabilities because at the beginning services for children were developed, but the children grow up very fast. And then after 18 years old, there were no services for this group in our country. So we started, as I said, 26 years ago. We have 200 people that we serve now, and of course their families as well. We provide two types of social services. One is a day center, and we have 3 daycare centers. And we also have residential services, group homes, and we have 6 group homes. In all, as I said, we had the 200 people that are depending on our services because we are the only service provider for this type of service in our area. We developed in parallel a social enterprise in order to be able to support our services and to provide job opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities, because this is a problem to find jobs on the open market. We also have a supported employment service, and we try to find jobs on the open market. But we have also this social enterprise that we created for providing, as I said, work opportunities. And we work with companies in our area, in Timișoara, and provide for them especially activities of copy center. So everything what has to do with business cards, posters, roll-ups, spiders, all these kind of things we do. And we also do different things like assembly activities, because this is a repetitive activity which people with intellectual disability can do very well.
Thank you for that. Now we know who to go to when we're in Romania and we need roll-ups and prints.
Please, you are very welcome.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very good to know. Mr. Bassi, you started this conversation with telling us a little bit about the impact or the role that families can have. And I'm just wondering, because these days we live in strange times, and I'm wondering if you feel that the roles or the responsibilities of families or family business has changed, or maybe has increased, or so during COVID and during the lockdown, and if so, why? And yeah, please.
Yes. Anyway, I'm very happy because all the people speaking before me now, they've just told us a very, very nice experience and very touched. Really, I'm sincere. And I want to respond, to answer to your question. I want to say that as European family associations, because even though I'm Italian, of course, now I'm talking about my experience as a president of an European federation. We promote the family values. That's true, but trying to communicate them, stressing the function and the role of the family as a resource for the common goods. And we have an evidence of this function, especially during this time, because during this time, this pandemic time, the families are in the front line. I don't want to exaggerate, because it's the truth. The families are the social institutions who that tried, and they are succeeding doing it to protect, to care, and also because the fathers and the mothers are technicians, are doctors. I mean, we are trying to carry out all the responsibilities, all the functions that we can. But we want also to say that we take on these responsibilities, regarding this responsibility as joyful, because we are not sad to be fathers and to be mothers. So we want to do that, and we are able to do that. The point is, the problems are the obstacles most of the times put by the public institutions to allow the family to carry out their proper functions. And it's very true what I'm saying, because the social the social fabric now has been reduced, and the only place where the people can express themselves, they express their problems, is the family. And the family is a community, is a little community, which is part of the larger community. To this respect, for me, it's very important. And it is an idea I accrued during this time, that more than the lack of money, the lack of jobs, the loneliness is the worst sick of our communities, of our families. Most of the problems has been resolved because when the families are together. So I think that is a very good point if we want to be inspired also from this time, and if we want to consider this bad time as an opportunity to improve our living standard, is to consider the necessity not to be alone. So to try to be always more together, to create more groups of families, more groups of family enterprises, because when we share our issues, when we share our problems, our questions, when we share our life, it's a way to start resolving our problems. And I hope that departing from this time, our communities will be stronger, because we are always more persons and less individuals. And when I speak about individuals, I'm speaking also about the individual families, because now we need to be together and to share our issues. And this is also the best way to create a new Europe, departing from the persons and the families.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's great. It's great to hear the perspective, and to actually have this conversation even be expanded a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Risa. Let me go back to you, and also in the same vein, the question that I asked Mr. Bassi, if you saw a different role or impact that your business had in the community during COVID, if there were any changes that you had to make in the way you serve people. And like I said, I know there's a profit side to your business, but I know that you also help and serve people I would say in a charitable way. So if you could speak to both, please do. Microphone.
For us, the difference hasn't been very profound. We are running the hotel like before, with a lot of people staying here. The difference is that we have served companies and people who just need a place to stay because of work they have in the area here, and we don't usually serve food. That means we have reduced the number of employees here substantially. We mainly have one person in place here now, plus one cleaning the rooms, and that's it. So in a way, we do better financially because the cost is so low now. And the government, of course, they have reduced the VAT, and the pressure to pay taxes on time, it has been delayed. Plus, those who stay here just pay on a weekly basis, and it's in a way it's easier to run it as a business now. The government has spent almost 300 billion in Norway on the Norwegian kroner. So I should say it's about 30 billion euros that the government has spent in order to support business, different branches in the society. So far, we have not received one single kroner, but we plan to apply now, both to the municipality here and the government, because now, for instance, investments in old historic buildings, budgets for that has increased, so we can apply to get renovated these historic buildings, wooden buildings. So we used the opportunity to restructure the business, lower the cost, and consolidate the management here. There are fewer funerals than usual. There are not so many people dying now as in a normal year. Probably it's an effect of Corona because everybody are extremely careful with everything. And that means also people are dying less now of all kinds of diseases because everybody are extremely careful. So the funeral agencies are not doing so well now in Norway.
Well, that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah, it's but it's difficult actually for the funeral agencies. The business for them is going down, and it's a strange effect of the Corona. Anyway, we have also done less because we had a lot of funeral arrangements here. In Norway, the tradition is that the families are gathering after the funeral in the church. They gather here for a meal. So it's but when we have it, we take care of the social distancing, of course. That we have a list of people. We need names and phone numbers for every person entering the main building. And of course, washing of the hands and a distance. And when we set the tables, it's now 2 meters between each person. That's the rule. It used to be 1 meter, but now it's 2, just for the safety. And we have the possibility to take care of each person in a nice way. And this morning, I personally made breakfast for 2 people who stayed over here, who came here to take care of their boat. So in a way, the activity is much lower, but when it comes to the financial situation, the cost is so much lower now that it's actually possible to run the business in the Corona situation. And everybody are very understanding, like the bank, the tax authorities. It's not a big pressure like it could be in a normal situation.
Well, since you touched upon that, and then I'm going to go to Ms. Onu to ask her about it as well. Could you please expand on this and tell us what sort of support or help you got from the local authorities or the government? Like you said, you haven't directly applied for a grant or a loan yet, but any other sort of help or support that they provided?
This morning, right before this meeting, I had a meeting with one of the political leaders in the municipality. So he took his time. He sat down with me for 1 hour here to listen to how is the situation, which is very good. It's a very short distance between the politicians and those who run a business in this small community. That is very good. What has helped us the most is probably that the VAT on rooms went down to only 6%. And that has a very big impact for us. It has been very helpful. Except for that, we tried to apply on a loan. The government provided a loan for businesses on an immediate effect a year ago, 50 billion Norwegian kroner, and that the local bank should give the loan and the state should guarantee. But then we found out, we applied for 3 million immediately, but the local bank said that we have none of our customers, they can meet the standards that the Ministry of Finance have put forward. So very few people got money from that loan. It was too strict, and it was made by people in offices in Oslo who never run a business. So they don't, in a way, understand the way we understand, because we are living this from day to day. So that was not helpful. I think the main thing which have been helpful is that the authorities, when we have to pay property tax and all the municipal taxes for sewage and water and renovation and all of these, and also employers tax, the VAT, the income tax, all of this, all those who sit and wait for our payments are very understanding. When we have to ask for a postponement or a delay, or we can split it up, it's usually no problem. So people, I would say, are very friendly in this situation, and it's creating an atmosphere of friendship, I would say, that we stand together in the crisis.
Yes. Oh, that is very important, and I can only hope that the European Union takes this model of a closeness between authorities and local businesses, of consultation, and also understanding. Yeah, about maybe I'm late, maybe we have to break it up into installments or anything like that. That would be, it's really a time when we need that, and it would be fantastic if more governments thought the way that the Norwegian, at least local government, treats you. So that's great to hear.
Yes.
Ms. Onu, you have spoke about the foundation in general, and I want to maybe laser focus now on the year 2020 and this year as well, and these difficult times that we've all been through, and the lockdowns and restrictions that came with the coronavirus pandemic. Do you feel that the role that your organization, your foundation plays in the western part of Romania and Timișoara and so, do you feel like it has changed in any way? Do you feel, do you think that you started addressing needs that weren't there before? And then, just like Mr. Risa, if at the end you could also speak about the ways that the local government or the national government helped you or supported you in any way, or if they didn't, how come?
Well, for us, it was a big change, and we had to face big challenges because people with intellectual disabilities were affected by the pandemic, not only because of the danger to get ill, because they are group, vulnerable group,
A risk group,
in
yes.
yes, a risk group, exactly, but also psychological, because if we speak about people with disability, with autism, for example, we know that every change is extremely challenging for them. They have their own routines, and all these routines have to change from day to day, which is extremely difficult, and which of course gives challenging behavior and all sort of psychological problems which are reflected in their behavior. And it has been extremely difficult for them and for their families. And we try to support and to adapt our services to this new environment. First of all, during the lockdown, the day centers have been closed for two months because it was forbidden to provide services. So we try to use this time to learn or to develop ways to provide services online, which is not so easy because it's not school. It's we are not a school. We are a service for people with intellectual disabilities, so and for adults, and it's difficult to find ways to support them online. That means counseling mostly, but also we developed all kinds of activities trying to get them into groups and we use a lot all the social media possibilities, WhatsApp, Facebook groups, Facebook Messenger rooms, and of course Zoom. And we also, that was the first big challenge. And the second one was the fact that after the day centers have reopened, the new rules which make the mask compulsory, wearing a mask in at the beginning it was inside, but now it's also outside. Some people with intellectual disabilities don't wear masks because of their disability, so they can't come to the services, so they are even more isolated than they were before. And to try to break this isolation, we started to provide services at home. So that means that the pedagogues and the professional staff from Pentru Voi went and delivered services at home. These were the two methods in which we try to support people from our day centers. For the residential services, it was even more difficult because, as you know, people who live in group homes are and were extremely affected by the coronavirus pandemic all over Europe, all over the world. People in institutions, when somebody got ill, in 1 week, all the residents of the facility were ill. So we were all the time in contact with the government authorities and with the local authorities, the health department at the local level, and the Ministry of Labor, that's the special authority for people with disability. And the government decided to test all the staff from the residential services every week. So every week our staff has been tested with PCR test, and all the residents were tested twice every 2 weeks. And our experience was like that, when one of the pedagogues, the staff member, got ill and he was positive at the test, even if he didn't have any symptoms, but he was positive at the test. Next week, all the residents in that apartment or house were also positive. So we had in 3 of our houses, we had people who were, all the residents ill, and we had to provide the healthcare for them. We were in contact with, well, it's too much to say healthcare, to provide care, but to under the supervision of the family doctor. But we also have been in touch with the hospital here in Timișoara, and they were assessed by the hospital and evaluated, and we got directions about what they have to do. Unfortunately, we also had one situation when one of our service users, she was well, she got ill and she was infected. She didn't have any symptoms, but she had the test positive. And when she went to hospital, her lungs have been already affected, despite the fact that she didn't have any symptoms. It was a girl, a young woman, 40 years old with Down syndrome. And she went to the hospital, and in less than a week, unfortunately, she died. And that was the most tragic situation that we had to face during this crisis. And it has been a shock, and also how shall I say, for all the people, all the big family of Pentru Voi, if you want. So the staff, her colleagues in the apartment, everybody was affected by this very quick development of the illness. We also had the second person, also with Down syndrome, who was hospitalized, but fortunately she recovered in hospital, and she was able, after 2 weeks, to come back to the apartment. So we had a lot of efforts, and with also a lot of how shall I say, energy in learning new things and new skills, because we work with social pedagogues. We don't have medical staff, so they had to learn new things. We had developed a monitoring system that all the people with disability in our residential services were monitoring every day the oxygen saturation and all these things. And we had they had an application on the telephone, and we sent to the doctors all the time all the values, so we can very quickly act when something is happening.
Could you please address any help or any support that you might have gotten either from private companies or from the government, local, national?
We have support from the private companies, but not so much, because all the private companies, even companies who before used to sponsor us, now they redirect their sponsorships to the health system. It was because the Romanian health system was very weak, especially in the first phases of the pandemic. Almost everybody donated to hospitals in order to have equipment and ventilators and so on. Even now, Romania is facing the third wave of this wave, the third wave. Do you say this in English?
Yes.
Of the pandemic, and there is a lack in Timișoara, for example, is for 3 weeks in quarantine, and there is a lack of places in intensive care, and that's really a problem. Also, the girl, the young woman with Down syndrome, which I told you about, when she needed intensive care, there was no places in Timișoara, so she was sent in another town to intensive care. And all this experience and this pandemic has shown very clear the discrimination against people with intellectual disability, because the health system is not accessible for these people. Imagine this was the protocol that people who are infected with COVID, they have to go alone in the hospital, so they couldn't be accompanied by a support person because of the isolation and all the prevention rules. So imagine people who don't speak and who don't have abilities to communicate with the staff, who don't understand what's happened to them, and they were in a hospital in a completely new environment. They had to wear a mask, an oxygen mask, and to face all this alone. And that was really very how shall I say, challenging, and somehow the inequalities in the society have been very much unveiled by this pandemic. And we saw also a kind of mute discrimination in some people's mind in the moment when they have to make a triage to select people for intensive care. People with intellectual disability were not a priority. Let's put it like that, unfortunately. So
that's very sad and actually disturbing to hear. Yeah, because the role of the government is, yes, to provide protection and support, and especially to the most vulnerable of us. Let me quickly go to Mr. Bassi, because we're close to wrapping up, and I don't want to keep anyone longer than I promised. Mr. Bassi, if you could also speak from your perspective and your experience, and also from a policy perspective, what should be the role that the government, local or national, and private companies play in supporting small, medium businesses and supporting nonprofits like the one Miss Ono is running? The microphone.
Thank you very much. Also, Mrs. Ono. For me, it was incredible. I can tell that your experience is the experience of every country, and Your job is a very great job. Thank you very much. Coming back to the question. Well, I have to make some differences. So if we talk about the public institutions, I think that they can they can do two things, principally two things. For me, minimum two things. The first one is to consider all the expenditure concerning families, demographies, also people with fragile people. They have to consider this expenditure not as a cost as to the public budget, but as investment. We have to change also this paradigm, because if you still keep considering all these expenditure as a cost, we do not understand the real and economical and crucial importance of the human capital. Without human capital, the human capital is like the petrol. We need the petrol to switch on a machine. And we need the human capital to think about not the simple growth of our economy, but we are talking about the development of our economy. And without human capital, we cannot reach any result. So yes, we can try to play on the public budget, but it's just growth, not development. That's why I think that we have to consider in the real way this kind of expenditure as an investment, first of all. Secondly, we need to take all the obstacles away. For example, in Europe, we are living a real problem. For me, is the biggest problem, and it is the demographic winter. We cannot afford any future without the young population, and we have also to understand that if you want to respect the dignity of the people, as Mrs. Onu explained us in her experience, we have also to take care about the intergenerational balance. So the elderly, the aged people are a resource for our community in order to permit also the communication of the experience. Mr. Rice explained us that he was very happy after a so important experience as a member of parliament to go back to his paradise. And because it was an enterprise of the grandfather. So we need the grandfathers. We need the fathers, we need the grandfathers, we need the mothers, we need an intergenerational balance. In order to achieve this intergenerational balance, we need young people. We cannot give up the youth. And we are giving up the youth. And now, economically speaking, I want to be very clear. As a European, okay, I'm talking about as European Union, we cannot respect the Maastricht criteria without young population. This is not an idea of Vincenzo Bassi or FAFSE, it's the reality. So please put in the center of the agenda the demographic issue. Now, the couples, the young people do not generate new lives, not because of their choice, because they have obstacles. So it's not a question of choice. Oh, well, let's put again in the middle the question of the choice, because if you are looking at the choice, I can guarantee you that the young people want to generate new lives. They cannot do that because there are so many obstacles. So please, this is for me the first issue. And if I look at the enterprise, at this family enterprise, I think that we have as well changed the paradigm, because we are living in a very change of epoch. I have to be aware of it. So up until now, the family enterprises and the multinational in general, they do not look at the real needs of the family. So the standard living of the families is not improved, thanks to the enterprise. So I think that the family enterprises now, they have to play a very important role in order to adapt the offer of services and goods, considering the real needs of the families. If we build up a real, concrete, new alliance between families and family enterprises, I think that we can go on and we can look at the future, because in this way, many of the obstacles will be taken away, and the families could start again, generate new lives, looking at the future of our continent.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your intervention. And yeah, definitely it's something that the local governments need to keep an eye on and need to bear in mind when drafting the recovery plans that they're submitting to the union to access the grants and the loans, for sure.
Yes, sorry, in order to the new generation EU, sorry, but do you think that are we facing a contradiction when we are talking about new generation EU without talking about new generation? I mean, it's for me, let's change the name. If you do not look at the demographic winter, please, let's speak about infrastructure plans, everything you want, but please change the name, because I don't want to be cheated.
Yeah, you're right. I guess our actions need to match the logos and the slogans and the titles that we put on buildings. And I'm saying that because Next Generation EU is on the side of the Commission building here in Brussels. Let me wrap up with this question, and it's similar to what I was seeing from our audiences as well. Ms. Onu and Mr. Risa, could you give us some ideas on what can be improved, what can be done better? And I would like to hear your opinion regarding the small and the medium enterprises getting involved in communities, like how can they improve those communities? And also the help and the support that is or is not there in Ms. Onu's case from the government. What can be done better on that side? So if you have any thoughts, Ms. Onu, we can start with you. The floor is yours.
Yes, well, I wouldn't say that the government was not there during the pandemic, because I think the government in Romania at least made a lot of efforts in this, and especially in the field of residential care and disability and houses for elderly people. They understood the danger. But it's not the question of Romania, or it is all over Europe. And it was also in the United States, this fact that our societies, as they are built in a time of crisis, unfortunately, when the health system is overwhelmed by demands, then people with disability who have difficulty in communication and also challenging behavior very often, they are just left behind. And I think that's a question for us as a whole society in or Europe, let's keep it to Europe for the moment. What can we do to not leave anyone apart or behind in such a situation? And how can we support the most vulnerable? Because we saw, and it's a question of mentality of the societies. Very often, especially now with social media, you can see all sorts of messages on social media who say, well, okay, some people are dying all the time. People are dying. Let's take care of the others who can. Let's not stop the economy. Let's not invest or allocate too much resources to the vulnerable. That means the elderly people and the people with disability. And I think it's difficult to change the mentality of the society, but it's a continuum work. We have to keep trying to do that and to work with because in a situation of crisis we saw again that things which before were we took it for granted, now they were not anymore because of the crisis. So we are generations who haven't been into a war or in a crisis situation. This is probably the most challenging time that our generation had to face. And we saw that some people are becoming extremely selfish in these circumstances. But on the other side, there are other people and groups who have been extremely devoted and who helped and support and volunteering for vulnerable people. And that's the good part of the community. Fortunately, in our country, people with disability were a priority group for the vaccination. So now all our service users in the residential services are vaccinated, and this is good because we are looking forward with more confidence. And also half of our staff, more than half of our staff is vaccinated. Everybody who wanted to take a vaccine had the possibility to do that. And hopefully that we will be able to open more the day centers and to support more the people in the future.
Great, thank you. So Mr. Risa, I'm going to go to you, and the same question in wrapping up. What could be improved from what you are seeing, from what you've experienced? What can be done better so that the communities are better served, and then so that this dialogue and the relationship between SMEs and community, between SMEs and the government is improved? Your microphone, please.
Yeah, I think it has been underlined very well in this forum here today, both by you, Adriana, and Mr. Bassi, the importance of the small businesses in Europe. And I think even your number is too small, because when you say Europe, you probably think about the European Union, but Europe is much more than the European Union. Yeah. Don't forget about that. We speak about 48 states as members of the Council of Europe, more than 800 million people. So I'm sure we can double. It's 200 million people in small businesses for sure. And it's probably 50 million businesses if we just double your figures. It means it's the backbone of the European economy. And I think what should be done is to invest in an enormous package, even bigger than what have been done so far, because this is a capital to preserve for the future and for future generations. And it will be paid back, it will be multiplied for sure, if the authorities understand they have to invest now to take care of the businesses. That's very important. For us who are in the businesses, we have to show corporate social responsibility and take care of our communities. And in our business here, we have been open to employ people who have problems with drugs or different problems. For many years, we did that. And at some point, one employee asked me, why do we have only drug addicts here? But we have seen fantastic results of that. We also have many buildings here on the property, and we rent out even to people who are not able to pay. So people who have different kinds of problems. but it's a blessing to see how can we help people into a more normal participant role in the society. And then we need compassion, and we need to show responsibility, and not always think, okay, is this person part of our family? No, they are all our children, and that should be our attitude towards the local community. They are all our children. We're one family, and then we can move forward in a fellowship where not only each household take care of themselves, but that we feel the responsibility for the whole community, and that is something which will be sustainable for the future, I think, for every community.
Well said. Well said. Yes. I absolutely loved this idea of yours, and I really appreciated Ms. Onu talking about the change in mentality in the society at large, and Mr. Bassi saying that it's not an expense. We should not see these funds as an expense, but more of an investment that will produce tenfold in results in the future, just like you said, Mr. Issa. Thank you all for sharing your experience and your insight with us all, and for bringing to the forefront the issues that these populations, these people that are often marginalized, they're dealing with. So thank you for also drawing us a roadmap, a plan of action. I think we all heard you loud and clear, and I am very grateful that you yourselves are examples of good practice that we can be inspired by. So we can only hope that this message reaches the right people and that much more is done in this direction. From us here at ECPM, we wish you much success in your endeavors. We are grateful for all of your work, and we stand with you. We're committed to help in any way we can. I want to thank those watching us online and interacting with us. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Hopefully, this was inspirational for you as well, and you are considering joining or donating to these efforts. Again, I'm going to leave the links in the description below. Maybe you want to start something new in your area and address a need that you see. Reach out, tell us about it. We would love to amplify these ideas. Next, you will see a short promo video about ECPM and what we do, what we're about. Please enjoy it, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Until next time.
We may not impress everyone. Some may even see us as insignificant, but the truth is, we are not here for power. We are here to make a difference. And that's often in the little things, small focus shifts, amendments that matter. Like I said, we are not here for power or might. We are here to empower faith, peace, love, life. We are here to give a voice to justice, to freedom, families, communities. We are here to stand up for what is right. In a time when people more and more distrust political institutions and their intentions, we believe that trust can be rebuilt. But not by a European Union that promises to be the solution for everything. We stand for an EU that facilitates, that finds solutions for key matters, and holds back where that's more appropriate. A European Union that acknowledges that that union was once built on a firm foundation of Christian principles and of Christian values, where people from minorities have the fundamental freedom to be different from the majority, respected and protect it. We believe in an economy that works for people and the planet, because we aim to build a future that is full of hope, where people are empowered by initiative and ownership, where human dignity is not seen as optional, but inviolable, where healthy families are recognized as the basis for thriving societies. As different as we are, we know one thing: that we will always find each other in the same God, in the same faith. We are not here for power. We are here to be the voice of what is right. We are ECPM, the European Christian Political Movement.